Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Buckeye Report on Buckeyes Now through Sports Illustrated. I'm Brendan Gulick, along with Andrew Lind from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It's week 2 of Ohio State training camp as the Buckeyes get ready for the 2022 season with that game against Notre Dame coming up awfully soon. We are inside 4 weeks to kick off, and this team certainly has that on their mind. But as Ryan Day told us after practice today, it's still not too Notre Dame focused yet. It's a lot more, hey, we need to hit fundamentals. We need to figure out a way to make sure we know what's going on with our group before we think about somebody else.
Yeah, and particularly on defense, where Jim Knowles said yesterday that they only have about 25% of, his scheme installed so far. So, it's a matter of getting those things first and laying that foundation, and then, next week then shifting to Notre Dame.
It's a beautiful day here in Columbus. It's not quite as hot as it has been over the last week. Still very sunny this morning, and we are very grateful. Thank you to Ryan Day and the football program for allowing us to be out at practice for the entire practice today. We were able to take some photos and videos during the first 15 minutes of practice or so, but we were invited to stick around and watch all of practice. And so it was a great chance for an up-close and personal look at an Ohio State team that doesn't have a lot of position battles for starting spots, but there are some questions about depth, I think, that have a lot of people's attention. But boy, the star power was certainly on full display today. I thought CJ looked really good.
Yeah, and I think that the places that there are position battles are really just at tight end, where they're trying to figure out who's going to replace Jeremy Ruckert, and kind of finding those second and third options beyond Cade Stover, and then especially at cornerback. Cam Brown missed a little bit of today because he's dealing with an undisclosed injury. Jordan Hancock is limited because he has a calf injury that kind of had him hobbled the last 2 practices. And it's just a matter of building that depth and comfortability with the players who are available. So yeah, it's really important for that.
I think we know pretty much the offense, kind of what things are going to look like there. We've talked a lot about the offensive line on our Buckeye reports here. On the defensive side, I think it's at least worth noting who is out there with the first team defense, and really not a whole lot of surprises. Zach Harrison, Jack Sawyer were the defensive ends with Jerron Cage and Teron Vincent today. They were the first 2 defensive linemen in the middle. Steele Chambers, Tommy Eichenberg were obviously at linebacker, and your 5 defensive backs. Cam Brown, as Andrew mentioned, was limited, but was out there along with Denzel Burke, and the 3 safeties were Tanner McAllister, Josh Proctor, and Ronnie Hickman. It's kind of what we expect. I would be surprised if things change drastically before the first game of the season. But the reality is that's a group that I think the Buckeyes feel really good about right now, because they've obviously got to take big steps forward on the defensive side.
Yeah, and I think it's important for them to, have that base of who, you're going to rely on. Because, to be honest, they're better off to have kind of guys who are established or solidified in those roles versus, having training camp battles that go until, the last week or so before the Notre Dame game, because, maybe that means that somebody hasn't stepped up, or you just, like in an ideal world, you might have multiple players, competing for that spot, and they're all doing very well, and that's not a bad problem to have, if you will. But then you'd rather just have them, one guy kind of solidify himself for that spot.
They did a lot of different individual drills, as they often do at practice, but a couple of things that stood out to me on the team side. They worked on punts when they were backed up basically against their own goal line. Just get it off, get it clean, get it out as quick as they can. I thought they repped that pretty well. The other big thing about the team drills that stood out to me was tempo. It didn't matter which group was out there. Certainly the first team offense handled it really well. I thought Kyle McCord and Devin Brown both looked really solid today. Kyle McCord did throw 1 interception that I saw, but he also threw a 50-yard bomb right down the middle and hit Xavier Johnson right in the hands. It was an awesome throw. But the tempo concept, look, that's nothing new to Ohio State fans, right? They've been running that offense now for several years. But pretty regularly from the time the whistle blew, because they're not tackling to the ground right now, from the time the whistle blew to kill one play to the snap of the next play was consistently at about 11 seconds. That is flying fast.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of defense is going to be able to keep up with that.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to what we talked about the other day with Luke Whippler and CJ Stroud, just having that comfortability with each other, because if they can, kind of diagnose things really quickly and just move the offense along, then, that's going to create problems for the defense. And, for the fact that the offense does as well as what it already does, to then speed it up and make the defense kind of make decisions a lot quicker. That's going to be an issue.
So, maybe a more lighthearted mood today. Big Ten Network was doing their campus tour, so they're on campus here today, and perhaps that contributes to some of it, right? You've got the guys that often cover Big Ten football from the network that are all here and talking with players and coaches. Bobby Carpenter's got all 19 of his kids running around, and actually it was great to see Harry Miller today. I don't know if he's been to practice regularly this year or not, because unfortunately we're not allowed out of practice often, but Harry was here today. I got the impression he hasn't been around a ton because he got so many hugs from teammates and from coaches that made me think and feel as though, hey, this is kind of a, hey, great to have you back kind of thing.
Yeah, I know, he's around the program a little bit, but it's not like he's, here working out or, practicing with the team or anything like that. So, and he's obviously been through a lot in the last year, 2 years. So for him to be in this situation and be around his teammates and his teammates understanding what he's been through and those kind of things, and just, welcoming him back at, any time, like, that's really great to see.
I think that was probably about it on terms of the most notable stuff out at practice. The reality is, from a personnel perspective, playing a lot of guys in a lot of spots. And it's hard to read too much into who is where outside of probably who the starters are, because we kind of have an idea of what that group's going to look like. But in terms of a true second or third string group, especially at linebacker, where they've only typically got 2 on the field at a time, and it feels like they can play substantially more than that. Defensive tackle, they rotated a bunch of guys in. I mentioned Jack Sawyer and Zach Harrison were the first 2 defensive ends out there, but JT Tuimoloau was quickly out there. Javonte Jean-Baptiste was quickly out there. Tyler Friday we saw on the field during team drills. So I just get the impression they're trying as best they can to make sure everybody's up to speed, and some of it's probably because of the install.
Yeah, and then on top of that, it's going to keep guys fresh. It's not like you just have, 2 guys running, over and over again. To be able to keep guys fresh, that's going to help, kind of wear down the offense, especially, at defensive end, where if you have tackles facing the same guy over and over again, they're both going to get tired. Well, you bring a fresh guy off the field or off the sidelines and put him on the field, and he's going to obviously, have kind of that extra step over offensive tackles. So, yeah, I mean, it's really about the install, getting everybody, comfortable with what they're doing, but also just keeping them fresh at the same time.
It's an interesting point of camp because camp it's full go, right? I mean, there's the rhythm and routine of, all right, we've been here for a week, and there's still 3.5 weeks before the season starts, and still maybe call it a week and a half to 2 weeks, I guess, before you really start diving in opponent specific with Notre Dame. But I also didn't get the impression, and maybe just because today wasn't overbearingly hot, it's humid, but it was only 72 degrees this morning. I also got the impression that there was this levity. Guys were working really hard, but not gassed by the time practice was done. And that just might be early camp.
Yeah, I think part of it too is just you get that second wind. It's like the first week you're not really used to being in the pads, those kind of things. And then just once you get to that second week and you're kind of like, okay, I know the drills, I know, what I'm going through, like, I know how to take care of myself, all those kind of things. Like, I think that adds up to the point that, you get to that kind of level off where you just say, okay, now I can work on just getting better and not, kind of catching my breath, if you will.
What stood out to you from what Coach Day had to say in his 22 minutes or so afterward?
Yeah, I think the one thing that kind of caught my eye, and I kind of expected this just because of all the talent in the room, but especially at wide receiver, they're going to rotate guys there too. In the last 2 years, it's pretty much just been, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson with, guys sprinkled in here or there, at least on the outside. And Jackson has the inside lockdown, but, it'll be interesting to see Julian Fleming, Marvin Harrison, a number of the freshmen, could make an impact there as well. So, yeah, it'll just be interesting to see them kind of, take advantage of that depth as well.
I thought Mayan Williams looked really good today, and we haven't heard much about him specifically from Coach Day other than, hey, we love how his body looks. He says he feels good, and, he's going to be a big part of the offense this year. But I thought Mayan had a couple of really nice cuts and explosive runs through big holes in the offensive line. It's always kind of fun to watch in like those 7-on-7s. You maybe get more of the aerial attack stuff, but sometimes they'll run drills where they basically take the receivers out of the equation with everybody else in, and just we'll run them between the tackles and let's see what you got. and it was fun to watch Mayan Williams and certainly Travion, who was out there as the starting running back. Aside from that, I guess I just wanted to point out again that Justin Fry seems to be maybe the MVP of camp.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it feels like he has unbelievable energy, and I am really encouraged by the way the offensive linemen seem to be responding to the way he's working with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different feel than it's been.
Yeah, I think that, we pointed out to the other day, just kind of his intensity, if you will, and that you could even see it like toward his grad assistants too. I know one of them right in front of us was running a drill with some of the offensive guards while he was working with the tackles, and they took the sled a little bit too far, and he let it fly. Like, he let them know exactly, like, hey, this, we don't want to put ourselves in a dangerous situation. And he yelled at the grad assistant because he wanted him to do it right. And I think that kind of rubs off on the players. And, not everybody kind of takes to that, that intensity or just being yelled at or those kind of things. But I think that, he blends that perfect mix of like intensity on the field, but then caring about them off the field to where they understand why he's yelling at them.
And I think he gave us such a great look at who he is and how he thinks and feels about the guys in his room when we talked with him earlier this week. He's a genuine guy. He's just a fiery guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a great mix. I get the impression that a lot of the coaches on this staff kind of fit that mold, but man, it just feels like Justin Fry fits right in right now. And a lot of reasons to be encouraged about that room here this year. Beyond that, looking forward to seeing what's to come here this coming week. We'll be back on Monday because the next couple of days practice is not open to the media with no media availability. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday this upcoming week, we'll have opportunities to talk with these guys again. We'll have quarterbacks next week. We got tight ends next week. Am I missing somebody? Maybe defensive lineman?
Not sure. I don't have the schedule.
I have to check the schedule. I know for sure we've got quarterbacks on Thursday. And I believe we have tight ends on Tuesday. I'll have to see if we've got anybody else on
I think
Monday.
It might be flipped. I think we get Kevin Wilson and the tight ends on Monday.
Okay. We definitely have tight ends.
Yeah.
We definitely have quarterbacks. And we'll
sure.
definitely have coverage for you here on Buckeyes Now. For Andrew Lind, I'm Brendan Gulick. We'll see you again real soon at the Woody Hayes Center.